All right. Hi. I'd like to call to order the Open Space Conservation Commission regular meeting of December 11th, 2024. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please all stand. Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you. So we will start with the public. If there's anyone here from the public that would like to speak about something that is not on the agenda, you may do so now. Go ahead and just state your name.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Rick Doran. I live at 223 Mansfield. I have been a former resident of Rocky Hill and have had the pleasure of serving on this commission with Sandy Kelly, and I wanted to come here tonight to celebrate her almost 20-year tenure on the Wetlands and Open Space Commission and for her diligence, support, and keen insight into issues of watercourses, wetland soils, and the other issues that bring about many of the discussions that take place in this commission. And Sandy always added a keen eye of balance between development and preservation. I first met Sandy when she advocated for Save Open Space in the sand pits of Rocky Hill and served with her for about 5 years on the commission until I moved from Rocky Hill to Wethersfield. I'm also pleased to greet David Schweitzer, with whom I had the pleasure of serving at that same time. But in Sandy's case, I wanted to just celebrate and acknowledge all of her sensitivity and knowledge and understanding of those things that are important to preserve the natural resources as established in the Connecticut General Statutes almost over 50 years ago. So Sandy, I congratulate you on all of your time spent and wish you a happy time elsewhere when you have all this free time to walk the dog on the trails of Rocky Hill, in the Great Meadows, or your adventurous travels elsewhere. Continued happiness to you, and thank you for all you've done for the town of Rocky Hill.
Tim Lewis, Ridge Road, 34 Ridge Road, Rocky Hill. I'm president of Great Meadows Conservation Trust. So in addition to what Rick, our treasurer, said, our Great Meadows Conservation Trust treasurer, I'd like to also add that while Sandy has been serving here, she has also been spending many years with Great Meadows Conservation Trust, serving as a director, serving on the Land Management Committee, doing land inspections. And this is something that I just learned a little while ago while doing the research. She served as secretary and vice president concurrently on Great Meadows Conservation Trust's board. I know, really, yeah. So Sandy, you know, being the very conscientious person that she was, stepped forward and took both positions. So when I was talking to Sandy over these past few years and she told me she was tired, I thought she was kidding, but apparently not. Sandy is an extremely ambitious person. She still does our land inspections, and she's been actually helping us train new people to do our land inspections because we have to inspect our parcels once a year. And so I just wanted to say congratulations, Sandy, and thank you for all of your hard work. Much appreciated.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? Okay, thank you. All right, so we will move to the next part of the agenda, the application for permits. First up is AR Building Company, care of Emily Mitchell, proposal to construct a multifamily residential development with associated parking, sidewalks, landscaping, utilities, and stormwater management located at 200 Capitol Boulevard, parcel ID 16-269.
Got it.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Jason Kambitsis, Kambitsis. I'm the president of AR Development Company. We are the applicant, and just present you briefly for what we're going to talk about here tonight. So background on who AR Building Company is and AR Development. So we are a 50-plus-year-old real estate development company located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We build, buy, and manage all of our own property. What I mean by that is we actually go through the entitlement process on sites that we locate. We build them ourselves. We're the general contractor, and then we're the owner. We don't sell these properties. They're for our own portfolio. So over the existence of this company since 1968, we've probably sold maybe 400 of our units. They didn't, fit the criteria of what we had at the time. So everything else is built for our portfolio. We currently have 2,000 units under development. We have many projects that we are currently building and have built in Connecticut. We just opened one in Brookfield, Connecticut. We have 3 in New London, 1 in Groton, Connecticut. We're building 2 in Meriden, Connecticut. And of course, we're looking at this one here, amongst other ones, north in Hartford. So, this property, really fits the archetype of what our kind of developments are. And I'll go to the next slide and we'll start talking about what that is. So what we normally do and what we're proposing to do here is we build 4-story elevated luxury apartment buildings. And what I mean by that is by having a 4-story building with an elevator, we open it up for people of all backgrounds and ages. So they're not made for people straight out of college. They're not made for senior citizens. These are every kind of demographic that are coming and going into various communities, including this one. And the idea is that these are 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. So you may see some families, but mostly it's couples or single people that really just want another option within the community. As you can see by the buildings, we use brick, we use AZEK trim, Trex decking. We build like this because we do own them. We like the look of that, and we like the long-term maintenance that goes along with buildings such as this. On the left is one in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, called Reynolds Farm. It's a 225-unit community. On the right's the Evergreen Apartments in Monroeville, PA. That's 93 units. And on the bottom right's another property called the Regency, 125 units. These are all different buildings, but you can see a theme amongst all of them. We have branded it in such a way that not every building's the same, but you can see how we use the brick and the siding, that they have a very similar look to them. You can go to the next slide. Of course, our interiors are condo finishes. We have, on this property, we're going to have a clubhouse with a pool. These are just interior shots of other buildings where they have internal gym spaces. We will have a gym. And of course, our kitchens, we use quartz countertops, LVT flooring, stainless steel appliances. Everybody's got a washer and dryer, master suite within the units. You can go to the next slide. So here's the project site at 200 Capitol Boulevard. We came here a few months ago, Planning Commission, to allow the zoning for this property. It's 22.1 acres. It's in the office park in the OP zoning district. There's a lot of open space on this site. We're using a very small portion of that. And I'll actually hand it over to John Schmitz, our engineer on the site from BL Companies. He'll talk about, a little bit about what we're doing in the sites, but really where we are in the wetlands and how we're not affecting the wetlands, we're not touching the wetlands, and he can give you an overview on that. So any questions, not only for John or for me, I'm happy here to answer anything you may have. So thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is John Schmitz. I'm a civil engineer and project manager with BL Companies, 355 Research Parkway, Meriden, Connecticut. I'm just going to walk you through the site. The slide up right now is just an overview showing the property where it's located off of Capitol Boulevard, just off of the highway. If we go to the next slide, so this is the existing conditions Alta survey. It's a blow up of the entire site, but what it shows is the locations of the wetlands. So again, in this slide, north is straight up the page. There are 2 main wetland areas on site. The larger finger wetland to the left is approximately 118,000 square feet in size. The smaller wetland on the right-hand side, which is kind of runs parallel to Capitol Boulevard, that's about 10,000 square feet in size. So in total, we've got roughly 2.97 acres worth of wetlands on the property. You will note that there's a break in the tree line. Currently, the site's undeveloped. It's mostly comprised of trees, forest cover. There is a Eversource power line easement right away that runs north-south through the property along the western side. And if we go to the next slide, so this is a blow-up of our proposed development, how we propose to develop the site. So again, you see the wetland area on the left, that finger, and then the other wetland further on the right. Out of the total 22 acres of the site, the total impervious area, or rather, I'm sorry, the total disturbance area to develop this is approximately 6.5 acres. And with regards to the upland review area, we'd be so there's obviously two different wetlands, so two different wetland upland review areas. The total impact between the two of them is 0.57 acres. And with regards to stormwater, we're basically going to be mimicking what we see today. So probably 80% of the stormwater from the development area, the 6-7 acres, is flowing towards the south into basins and into outlets on Enterprise Drive, which is where the access to this site will be. There's two driveways off of Enterprise Drive where we'll have access to the site. So no access from Capitol Drive itself. And then again, some of the wetlands to the west and to the east, some of that water will also flow into those wetlands, but by and large, the majority flowing to the south. Stormwater management plan's been designed to comply with the recent DEP guidelines for water quality, infiltration and treatment for total suspended solids, infiltration and discharge. Same thing, the set also includes an erosion control plan, which provides for best management practices, things like anti-tracking aprons, perimeter silt fence, stockpiles, hay bales, siltation basins, that sort of thing. So this is, again, just kind of an overview of the site. I just wanted to give you a brief rundown, I think, and at the next meeting, be happy to go into greater detail on the stormwater design and any other plans. The package does include landscaping plan showing how we would landscape the site and restore it when it's done. So that's kind of a brief overview. And again, be happy to answer any questions.
So are we ready to start for discussion? Okay, great. So we'll start with Commissioner Schweitzer.
Earthwork on the site, your cuts and fills, are you balanced, or is this going to be a borrow job?
No, right now, so we're looking at some export on the property right now. So along the road, elevations are roughly around 160 or so, and then the site climbs as we head to the north. So up where see the community building next to the pool house, that's roughly about 200 feet. So we're climbing about 40 feet. We'll be cutting into the earth as well as the rock in that area. So we do have shallow bedrock on the site, so we'll be into that with the development, and we're anticipating some export.
Do you have quantities yet?
We have some preliminary quantities, but we're also looking at where we can place material on site to reduce any material that has to go off site.
Okay.
So we're kind of just looking at what options we have.
All right. And you mentioned bedrock. Is there going to be blasting then?
At this point, I think it would probably be anticipated that we'd have to get to some point, we'd have to blast. I don't believe that it's rippable. So, correct. Yeah, we need to blast a certain amount of rock.
I looked at your ENS plan. One question I had is, are there other temporary measures that you're going to use? I'm just looking at the height of those driveways. Are there going to be temporary rills in them? Are you going to build them in sections so that you're not just cutting up 25 feet and then letting that come all down your driveway?
So, yeah, so during construction phase, there would be different options to create diversion ditches across the driveway to keep water so it doesn't come straight down that driveway. And then what you don't see on that plan too is that, again, the water flows down toward Enterprise Drive, so we'll have sediment basins located down in that area, so we'll be able to intercept water into those basins prior to any discharge, so we'll be able to treat that.
Okay. Is there a sequencing plan within this, or do you have a
There-
sequencing on how you plan to construct this?
There's a schematic sequencing outlined on the ENS notes sheet, which I think is EC2. Kind of goes into some detail, but it's more generic. Kind of gives an overview of how, for instance, it doesn't talk about, building 1 or building 2 or the clubhouse. It just kind of gives an overview about, installing erosion control measures, stripping topsoil, that sort of thing, and then kind of goes into, installation of storm systems, installation of utilities, foundations, on and on.
Okay.
So there's a plan.
I'm just looking at how challenging the site is with the climb and the elevation you're going to have. You may want to have more details and/or temporary intermediate type measures to have available so that if staff or whatever so deems that they can be employed.
Sure, we can take a look at that. And, I mean, you notice that there's 3 buildings, and obviously, the way it's designed is it wouldn't be phased, right? We would build it all at once. So,
Yep.
so we can certainly come up with
But
a
most of
more
your,
detailed
most of your
plan.
parking's up at the top of the hill.
That's-
So
that's correct.
that's what concerns me. So, okay, I'm all set for right now.
Great.
Actually, my questions are for you, because you're our engineer. Should we ask them to provide a stormwater report that shows that they're meeting compliance with that? There was nothing provided.
I would ask if staff has seen that.
We have not received the stormwater computations. They were being revised
Okay.
At our last talk, but it's my understanding that those will be available
Okay.
in your next packet.
At the
Is
hearing,
that-
okay, or
that safe to
the
say?
next meeting.
That's correct.
Okay, sounds good. My other comment is with the landscaping plan. I don't know if there's any opportunity to bring, I know it's hard because you've got lots of slopes and grading, but I don't know if there's an opportunity to bring any more trees onto the site, especially in like the upland buffers or anything like that. And also take a look at the species you're proposed for planting, if they could make sure they're native. It doesn't seem like some of them are.
Sure.
They're a little more landscaping.
Yeah, I believe that the majority of all the plantings are native, but
Yeah,
I'll certainly
majority are,
double
but
check the
a
list.
couple of them, I think, is like a Japanese cherry and possibly another. But if you could double check that for me. The other thing I just noted, and it's a couple of things that I just want to make note. And I don't know if you could maybe speak to it on the next meeting, but the corner where you're coming in with the utilities, it's technically mapped as NDDB habitat. I know it's the very corner, and those things are kind of off, but I think it's regulatory-wise, you do have NDDB impacts in the corner there. So you may want to run your
I'll take,
online, you can do it all online through the other thing, just to make you aware of, with the new tricolored bat uplisting, blasting is an impact to the tricolored bat. So technically, the mitigation for that is a time of year restriction between April 15th and I think the end of September. I forget the exact dates, but just letting you know that as well. When you do your, when you look at that, although you don't have any wetland impacts, so technically you're not triggering that, but if you need like I guess the state RIPTs or whatever, but anyways, it may not affect you. I just wanted to make you.
right. But due to the disturbance over 5 acres, we will need a general permit from DEEP.
Yeah, so they may, although it's a state permit, not a federal trigger. The bats are a federal trigger, but anyways, I just wanted to make you aware that blasting and drilling are now an issue. And my other question is probably more gonna come in with the stormwater stuff, is a lot of these buildings have, some steep slopes that lead to the wetlands. I just didn't know what sort of, I guess if you could just explain to me how the site is, I'm not an engineer, I'm a wetland scientist, but how it's gonna be handled so that, the stormwater or whatever is not just gonna run down the hill and go into the wetlands, or, the roof drains and all that are not just
Right.
gonna run.
Yeah, I'd be happy to explain it, but at the next meeting, I can bring watershed maps to show you
Okay.
what's directed into which area, to show
I
you
see
how
you've
we're
got some
mimicking
piping
that.
and stuff, so I'm assuming it's all being directed into the pipes, into the upland, the
The ma-
basins at the front.
Right, the vast majority of it is coming down the hill, because the idea is we're trying to mimic the existing drainage patterns. But
Okay.
yeah, I'll
Makes
be able to
sense.
bring a plan to show
All
that.
right, okay, sounds good. I think that's all I got for now, thank you.
Could you tell me again where the blasting will be? If you're going to do blasting, where on the plan it'll be in relation to the wetlands?
So I don't know if we can see, so the plan's up over here. So basically, The highest portion of rock that we would be removing would be where the clubhouse is. That's the smallest building towards the top. I think we'd be in roughly a 12, 15-foot cut in that area, and there's roughly 4 or 5 feet of overburden. So we're looking at about 10 feet of rock removal in that area. And then as you move south towards Enterprise Drive, it's less and less. So by the time we get down towards the buildings, there shouldn't be much rock removal except for maybe foundations.
Nothing up by the northeastern wetland, the small wetland, nothing up in that? Because I'm looking at the 100-foot review area, which is right up against the building, and I'm wondering, and I see landscaping behind the building.
Right.
And wondering if there's going to be any blasting done in there, which is, then I'm wondering where the rock and debris and storage and whatever will go in relation, because you're already close to the wetlands. Does that
Right.
make sense?
So I can verify how deep the rock is in that area. Obviously, for that building, I think there would be potentially some blasting for foundations.
For the foundation.
But what is your concern?
I'm concerned with the impact to the upland review area. If the
Right.
blasting goes if it's in the area outside the potential footprint of the building.
I mean, because, as far as the blasting goes, a lot of times they'll shoot the rock with the overburden on top, so rock's not flying around. They use rubber tire mats to hold it in place, so they just don't blast and rock goes everywhere. And then what they do when they start too, first of all, when you have a blasting plan, it's got to be reviewed by the fire marshal. I think the state has some jurisdiction. The person who does the blasting has to be licensed. And what they do typically is they'll start with what they call a test blast. So they'll start with a little bit of dynamite, and they'll see what that does, because there's other things besides wetlands. They're concerned about, well, we don't want to crack the foundation of the neighbor next door either. So they have to very carefully look at how much blasting they're using and how what the quantity of dynamite is and how it affects everything. So it'll be highly regulated once they do get into it. But I could have some more information at the next meeting.
And the landscaping areas that are within that 100-foot review area on both behind the clubhouse and over towards the west, closer to what you're calling, you calling that the finger, the wetlands that's on the left?
On the left, right. That would be a slope.
And because there's going to be a fair amount of disruption to get your landscaping done, which makes sense. But I'm just wondering, how are the vehicles going to come in? How are they going to go out? How close are they going to be to the wetlands, being that they're already within the review area?
Right.
How much potential disturbances are going to be during the construction?
Right, yeah. So there, again, like the green area is what we deem our limited disturbance, so we wouldn't be getting any closer to the wetlands than what's shown on that plan. We'd be working on the inside of that limited disturbance line. And in this case, working towards the south from that line, water and everything would be flowing, towards the south. So I think we wouldn't have any direct impacts to those wetlands, but we'd be able to keep the disturbance limited to our side of that line without anything going over. And obviously at the limited disturbance, we're also talking about silt fence and hay bales, that sort of thing as well.
All right, thank you. No more questions. Thank you.
First off, you're no fun. You're not going to have the blast go everywhere. And I understand the safety implications. I would like to point out, this has nothing to do with our commission, but you're relatively close to Dinosaur State Park, and someone may want to look at some point with the overburden gone to see if there's dinosaur tracks or anything. They're in the area. Well, they're potentially in the area.
Right.
Okay. My only question is, where does the Enterprise Drive stormwater empty out to, since you're adding into existing?
So there's an existing drainage system in Enterprise Drive, and what's missing from that slide is the Hartford Health building that's on the south side. So there's pipes on our side of the street as well as in Enterprise Drive, and there's an easement that the town has that cuts through the health facility through their property and then heads further south to a stream. I could provide some additional information on that, but that's basically where that water goes. It collects and it goes through some pipes into the easement, and those pipes are separate. So the development across the street doesn't even tie into that.
Right.
They have their own stormwater system that's separate from that discharge from Enterprise Drive.
I was on the commission when that building got built, so I know
Okay.
that one. I was just concerned where Enterprise Drive went because the direction that road takes you to another large building in 91. It's like, where's all this new water going?
Right, and that's in a different, I'll call it different watershed, because they're, again, they're further down,
Yeah,
you go
I've-
around the corner.
yeah,
So
I've
their
seen the
water
contour
goes,
lines.
I think in the end, it all ends up in the same place in the stream to the south, but the water in our area ends up going through those pipes and, you know,
Okay.
down to the
It's-
south.
And yeah, I heard you talk to David that you guys are still calculating how much, as long as we're not going to overreach capacity of what's existing.
Right, yeah, you know, the idea is that, obviously, we're gonna meet zero net increase. So we're talking about, you know, because the site's not developed now, we'll be, you know, detaining water, infiltrating water, and meeting those numbers as far as, you know, discharge.
Okay, thanks.
I have no questions at this time.
Thank you.
No questions.
Beatty? Okay. Commissioner Stevens?
I have a few. The wetlands, and the report that I got, it goes into great detail talking about the process in which you flag the wetlands, and it looks like you were flagging like a federal wetland, because you were looking at hydrology, hydric soils, and vegetation. You know, we don't, that's not our jurisdiction. We're obviously Connecticut inland wetlands, which is based strictly on soil type. Sometimes, well, when we flag wetlands at our firm, we identify the flags as either Connecticut wetland flags or federal wetland flags. Do you know specifically if they were flagging federal wetlands on this, or?
I can have the soil scientist, you know, at the next meeting, and he can address.
Because a lot of times the Connecticut wetlands can be more expansive, you know, larger than the federal wetlands, because you need to meet all three criteria for the federal wetlands, whereas the Connecticut wetlands could be a little more extensive.
Sure.
So that was one of my questions. Another question I have is the area that you show clearing that's going towards the intersection of Capitol Boulevard and Enterprise Drive. What's going through that clearing area? Straight. It would be that straight green line.
So the line, that would be some utilities. So the sanitary sewer for this, so there's no sanitary sewer in Enterprise Drive, it's in Capitol Boulevard. So we've got to get over to there to get the
One of my
sanitary.
concerns is, or another one of my concerns is the medical building that was constructed across the street. We went through extensive discussions of a water course that I believe was basically originating in this wetland and possibly going across that area where you're gonna have your utilities go.
Right.
And then it goes into an 18-inch culvert pipe that you show on your plans. That water course, I can show you the maps and should probably submit it to the chair, but, chairperson. But on the town of Rocky Hill, their GIS, they show it as a water course. And it's also shown as a water course on the MDC map.
Right.
So that would be a direct wetland impact.
Yeah,
Or wetland water course.
And I can have the soil scientist, no, I have seen it, yeah. I can have the soil scientist address that, because obviously, you know, there's certain state criteria, as you're aware,
Right.
that it needs to meet in order to be deemed a water course.
But that, you know, obviously that 18-inch culvert pipe is there for a reason, so you might want to just have the soil scientist check it out, make sure that it is not a, you know, regulated water course. It's, you know, I don't know if they're calling it a drainage swale, or
Right.
I'm not exactly sure, but you'd want to check that out. We can certainly go out and inspect it, some of us that, you know. So that's another big thing. Trying to think of anything else. That's, like I said, that's about it, but you might want to check the medical building across the street, because I know that was a big discussion, that water coming through there.
Right.
How they handled it.
Well, yeah, I mean, so BL was actually an engineer for that project across the street, so I have access to all those documents. I can certainly review those.
So I think that's all I have for now.
Can I add something on to Commissioner Stevens? Could I ask that your soil scientists update the wetlands report to actually include a soils discussion for the site? There's no discussion on soils, and since wetlands in Connecticut are based on soils. It should always be a soils discussion on when you're doing wetland reports in Connecticut. That would help, I think, address Commissioner Stevens' concerns about just making sure that all the soils were checked and there weren't pockets of Connecticut wetlands which are based solely on hydric soils.
Sure.
Or alluvial soils, which we may not have on the site, but.
I'm assuming, can I get a motion to continue?
Can I make
Oh.
a motion?
Yes, you are voting in
Okay.
place of.
I make a motion to continue to next month's. Get up to the mic. I make a motion to continue this to the next meeting in January.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Okay, hearing none, we'll continue this till the January session. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, next up on the agenda is Stephen Engel Hertera. Proposal to construct a single-family residential home, driveway, and associated being located at 59 Chapin Avenue, parcel ID 09746.
Hello.
Hi.
You did really well with my last name. Thank you.
That was
So-
thank you.
So yeah, I'm here to submit this documentation to construct this home
Oh,
on
sorry.
Chapin Ave.
Pardon me, I'm sorry, can you state your address too?
Oh, Stephen Ingleterra. My address is 1736 Hebron Avenue, Glastonbury, Connecticut, 06033.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Please go ahead.
So I'm proposing to build a single-family home on this property, which has been a vacant property for quite some time due to the utility easement that's on the property. We did find a way to get a home potentially fitting on this property, but it is within the wetlands area of 100 feet. So soil scientist did provide documentation and would be at the next meeting, which I believe is the meeting where you would deliberate on it.
Okay. Right. Do we want to open it up for questions at this time, or?
I do have a question, actually, for staff.
Sure, why don't you ask your staff question, and then,
We can go in order if you want, or I can go, whatever. I'll go first.
I
have a question
I just
for
want to make sure you're all set, that's your, okay. Sure, go
Sorry.
ahead. You can start, we'll jump around. We'll, no
Do we
problem.
have a minimum setback from wetlands? Because he's very close to wetlands with this house.
We do not, all we have is the 100-foot upland review area. We don't have a minimum setback. And the location of the house as proposed meets the zoning
Okay, that was my
setbacks
next
as
question.
well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know he's constrained. There's really nowhere else he can put it because of the utility right away. That's my main question.
Are you ready? Do you want to start, Commissioner Schweitzer? Or-
There's no basement on this house, you'll be on slab?
That was undetermined at this point. So we were going to do it on slab, but we haven't chosen either way yet.
Okay, I think I'd have more concerns if you were going to dig a basement.
Understandable.
It's a tough property.
It's very tough, yeah.
I mean,
I did
we-
reach out to Eversource and try to get these poles moved, and they said that
Okay.
would happen in time, but they can't give me a date. But they are fairly old, and
I'm sure we'd put other, if this were to advance forward, I'm sure we'd have other restrictions to put on the property, seeing it's all within the upland review, and we would want to protect these wetlands. So,
Absolutely.
But those are the only questions I have for right now.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner Kelly.
The wetlands, as determined, there's no water course there. Is that mostly wetlands determined by vegetation and soil types?
to my knowledge, yes, but I'm probably the wrong person to answer that question.
Who would answer it?
The soil scientist, I'm assuming, who would come to the next meeting,
Can you
or
get an
the
answer to
engineer
that? 'Cause,
that
I
drew the
mean,
plan.
If it was right on top of some sort of a water course, that would be a big concern.
Yeah, no,
Especially
understandable.
with the construction. And as they've asked to find out, I think I think we can require to know before we're finished whether it's a slab or a basement, because I think
Okay.
that impacts the decision.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Commissioner Todd?
Just more to make you aware that, you know, the way this house is built, I don't even know if you want to bother with a back door, because that land there, we would never approve a deck, a paver patio or anything like that. And if what's back there is mowed now, it can continue to be mowed, but if it ever went wild, you'd have to come before this commission to say, I want to cut the grass. I
Understandable.
mean, you're in the wetlands, and I understand the property is hard, I know where it's at.
Yeah.
You know, just, you know, for your information, it's scary how far back that is.
No, understandable.
Okay.
There was going to be a side door, not a rear door.
Yeah.
'Cause, we're being pretty understanding with the situation here and looking to make it work in some manner, so,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just an informational.
thank you.
All right, no other questions.
I'll reserve my questions for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Commissioner Beatty?
Just, I guess the question is, and this is just a general thing. Just describe the west, like what in this wetlands, I know sometimes wetlands are totally wet. Just describe this property, like what's it normally like?
So it's, there's a fence at the rear of the property after the wooded area, and there is some type of stream, I would say, and I'm using that term for lack of knowing. But on this actual property, there's really not an area that you would walk into and it would be considered wet. So I don't know if it's just been considered wet for quite some time, but again, I'm not the true professional at this, so yeah. Well, you can walk back there and it's dry, but this is what's been on the map.
It's hard to see.
You're welcome.
Okay. I, like other commissioners have mentioned, concerned that you're very close to the wetlands.
Understandable.
See it?
Is it, what's your closest distance to the wetlands? Is it like 7 or 8 feet, it looks like? I think it says 15 feet to the, is that to the property
It's
line?
marked 6.5 on the right side there, Scott.
I mean, that's, by the time you do grading, you're almost, you're gonna probably be in the wetlands. Are you offering any mitigation? Wetland mitigation for indirect or direct, possible direct impact?
I'm unsure. That would be a question for the engineer, I think, or the, what would be needed to
Yeah, I mean,
propose.
usually when you're either having direct impacts or indirect wetland impacts, and if you're, 6 or 7 feet from the wetland, that's extremely close. Usually we like to see at least 25 to 50-foot buffers.
Yeah.
Our review areas is 100 feet. So typically we are looking for anything that's within 100 feet. And like I say, usually, we like to keep at least a 25 to 50-foot buffer. It all buffers a lot. I'm not sure if the other commissioners might have some comments on this too, but buffer distances a lot of times matter depending on the functions and qualities of the wetland. So a higher quality wetland, you might want to have a greater buffer to protect it depending on what the functions and values of the wetland are. I'd also recommend that we do, or that you do some sort of an assessment of the functions and the qualities of the wetland. You can even maybe get it done by the Conservation District. They do some of these reviews, so you might even be able to get one for free if you ask them. But I think it would be good to know what the functions and the, values of the wetlands are, to get a more of an idea of the quality of the wetlands. In the soil report, I think they just discussed it as a Wilbraham. And I know on the SCS maps, they show the whole site, I believe, is Wilbraham. So they showed a much more extensive amount of wetlands. I'm not questioning really that, because I know Bill Jackson's been around for a while. But that's basically my questions would be to look at the functions and quality of the wetlands, what their values are, and also offer some sort of mitigation. If you have
Okay.
no mitigation, that's kind of a tough one for us to, pass something when it's so close to the wetland.
Okay, thank you. I believe on the right side, there is a proposed like retaining wall of some sort.
Yeah.
On the
but
side of the
you
property?
You might need to like do some kind of wetland creation on part of
Okay.
the site or something like that. I don't know it, because I know you have that power line. And is there certain setbacks, minimum setbacks you
Yeah.
have to keep from the power line?
From the power line to 100-foot
Wow.
easement, so it's 50 feet on each side of the pole, which is, drawn on the map there, and that's what been the hindrance. We even tried getting it reduced a little bit, to kind of bring it in. We'd like to bring it in, but it's just unfortunately the way that it sits, we're kind of,
And I think that might be a big reason why this property's never been developed, is because the power line easement went kind of right through the whole thing.
Yep.
So,
You don't want to live near a transmission line.
yeah.
well,
Electric EMF and, you don't want to be that close.
So that's my recommendations, is to look into mitigation and
Okay.
also do a functions value assessment of the wetland, of the functions and the values and the quality of the wetlands that are there. I know a lot of the other soils on the rest of the site, he's calling it Uterthens, but then he calls it Wilbraham. Are the wetlands also disturbed soils, or are they undisturbed? Be good to have a little bit more information on that.
okay.
That's all I have.
I have another question. I'm sorry, I know I'm so bad about jumping
I
around.
do not care. Don't you apologize.
What about stormwater? Do we need to deal with that for a single-family home?
I'm sorry?
A stormwater management or anything like that with,
It would not require, it's the lot's only a half acre.
Okay.
What we would require is some type of infiltration. The roof leaders not be connected to catch basins. That's about it, no direct connections.
and you're getting all your, you don't need like a field for, what's it called?
Septic.
Septic.
Septic,
thank you.
yeah, no.
You don't need a
Should be city water, city sewer.
City.
yeah.
Okay, so,
No leach
yeah, I
field.
think I see that here.
would
I just
have
wanted-
killed.
Yeah, I
can't
I don't know where you would put that.
I wouldn't have shown up, so.
I mean, we can always talk about it next time,
Yeah.
about anything else, so that's fine.
No, I guess my only thought too is definitely the functions and values would be really helpful, and some offsetting mitigation. And I'm not saying this, I'm just saying this as it's a 1,700 square foot house with the garage. Are you married to this?
We're not. So
plan?
we put the
Okay.
maximum size on that
Yeah.
plot plan. but
Okay.
We are, we can go down. So
And
that's
there's
possible. Looking for
You could go
feedback.
vertical, right? I mean, I have to go look at it, but
Say it again?
if you want more square footage, you can do 3 floors. If you really, like, I'm just
I
wondering.
know there's a height maximum,
There is,
which I
okay.
believe
For zoning?
Maximum height of 35.
35, yeah.
35, okay, okay. I'm just trying to help out here.
Oh, understandable, absolutely. Yeah,
We're-
we can go down to 1,200, 1,300, depending on, we could remove a garage. We're looking, we came with the
Okay.
max, and we're trying to figure out what's gonna work there, so.
As long as we're being creative, there's nothing that says that you have to have a rectangular house. You can cut that corner and have it follow the 50-foot easement line.
That is true. So on the first plan that I had the engineer create, that's what he did, actually. He actually made this rectangle in the front and then almost like a triangle portion in the rear, and it just looked a little funky. So we went with this just because it was more traditional in the maximum size. But again, we're not married to it. We're looking for the options and
Yeah,
the
my
feedback.
neighborhood's had some interesting shaped houses for that reason, so, okay, great. So, any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Can I get a motion to continue?
I got it.
Oh,
I make a motion to table till the next meeting, the proposal to construct a single-family residence, home driveway, and associated grading located at 59 Chapin Ave, parcel ID 09-746.
okay. Can I have a second?
Second?
Okay, can I, all those in favor?
Aye. See you next month.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah. Okay, so on to the next agenda item. Can I get a approval for the meeting minutes from last month, from November 13th? No?
Make a motion to approve the action taken minutes presented for approval for November 13th, 2024?
Second.
Okay. Can I get a vote?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Wake up. Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, discussion. We'll start with any updates for plan of conservation and development.
No meeting.
No meeting? Okay. Any updates on various projects, Dave, from the town?
We just submitted our inspection of the Rose Hill Detention Dam to DEEP, completed the inspection. The dam remains in good condition. We have some items we have to address, such as some removal of some vegetation around the spillway and placement of some riprap on the northern slope where there's been a little erosion from wave action of the water. We've completed a few other small projects in town, and we're getting our plans figured out for paving for next year right now. And the work associated with that. So trying to figure out how much money, how we can spread the money we have, how we can stretch it, I should say.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Open space update?
I don't
Anything?
have anything to
No
report. Just to back up on the various projects, I did speak with the environmental professional working with the former landfill, asking for an update, and the site remains, the vegetation remains in good condition, but there's been basically no movement with DEEP in regards to that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any legislation updates?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Conferences?
I didn't have any this month.
Okay.
October.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. We'll move on to the next agenda item. Did we get any correspondence communications?
We did not.
Okay.
Holiday mode.
I know. I know. It's totally. All right. So for other business, well, I do want to acknowledge that this is Sandy's last meeting after 20 years. I certainly have had the privilege for the last, I think it's been a year and a half, serving with you, and I can only thank you for just being so open and knowledgeable and on the ball. And if anyone wants to make a point of personal privilege or whatever, please do. We will miss you.
It's been my honor and my privilege. It was mentioned that I was exactly 20 years ago part of that amazing referendum and grassroots movement to save the 68 acres that are now the Dividend Trails. And through that, I got nominated to this commission, and little did I know what it would lead to, all those years ago. But it's very rewarding, and I would just say, do what you care about, and it'll always be worth it. It'll be frustrating. Lord knows we've done this, but just follow what you care about, work for it, and it'll be good. So thank you. That's what I found here.
Well, I'll say thank you, Sandy. I've learned a lot from being here. You provided great balance. You've been a pillar here on this commission. I really appreciate all I've learned from you, so thank you.
I've learned from you lots. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say the same, and I don't want to say that I'll hopefully, pass the spot to me, I guess, and carry on your great legacy, I guess.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Very kind of you. be happy to make the final motion to adjourn.
I know. I would love that.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Friendly amendment? Let Sandy gavel the meeting closed.
Oh, yes.